Welcome to Accounting Europe YouTube channel.
Recording on this computer. Right. Today, I'm going to make you host so that you handle admitting people into the meeting. Hope that's fine.
Okay, that's fine. But
All
how
right.
do I do that?
So you'll be seeing people's stuff will be coming up. So you just need to add them. You just click admit. There'll be a waiting list. So you just need to add them.
Oh, okay. Oh,
All right.
okay.
Let's try it out. And let's see
All right.
if you can add people that are coming in.
Okay, I can see. I've been host now.
All right. Yeah.
So,
Hi, Emeka. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming around. And for all those who have also joined, thanks for coming around.
Yes, hello, Tilly. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Emeka. So,
hello, good afternoon.
I'll formally
Thanks for
introduce
joining.
Emeka later on. He's the HR person, so bringing an HR perspective to this process, so that I'm not the only one, right? So me and Emeka would be on the panel to now interact with the person who are interviewing. The person who are interviewing is by name Bolo Akinyemi. He should join us shortly. So we're just waiting for him. So will join us shortly, right? And that will make the interview session. Okay, Bolo has joined us, right? As much as possible, one very key thing about this session is it being very interactive, meaning that as much as possible, we want to a situation whereby there's a lot of dialogue between the participants, the person we're interviewing, and also people that are also observing, right? One key thing about this session is that it's important that we pay close attention to the questions and the response being provided by the person being interviewed. Also, it's also important that we are able to ask questions in terms of challenges we face during our own interviews, the kind of responses we expect, right? It's good we also ask such questions because there will be another session, right, where we get to ask our own questions like, oh, if I'm asking this kind of question, what should I expect, right? So this is not the first time we're doing this. This is the second time. And it's based on the feedback that we're now creating this. And that's why we have Emeka, who is someone with a very strong HR background and who has done recruitment for different companies, right? So he has a good experience in terms of human capital management, right? Also, we also have someone who is quite vast in terms of number of interviews as attended, which is Bolo Akinyemi. And he has also vast experience in terms of finance and accounting, right? As much as possible, we intend to kickstart the interview by exactly 4:15. However, before we start, first, I want to give a historical background into this. First, we have a group called Accounting Yard, right, which has a group on Telegram. There's a job group specifically for accountants, right? Here we try to put accounting related roles, and people tend to apply for roles. And one key thing that we get to see often is that people ask the question, what should I expect during the course of the interview if I go for an accounting related role, right? So this particular session is to help address that, right? And hopefully we're able to add value to a lot of people during the course of this session. We hope to ensure that we achieve that. There are not a lot of people involved right now available, but we hope that a lot of people join in, right? So those are available. If you have friends that you know this is important to them, you can get to call their attention that something is going on. If you have the link, you can share with them, right? Because it's open, no fees attached. It's helping our fellow Nigerians so that they can help prepare them for their next role and help them place them strategically in getting their next job, right? I don't know if this is the right time for Emeka to introduce himself and also Bolo Akinyemi, or we should just wait till 4:15 when every other person. So Emeka, you can turn on your camera so people can see your face if that's comfortable for you. So that we can see your face and know that we're talking to you. So that they see you, they can all say, hi Emeka, thank you very much for the last session of impact you had in our lives during the last one.
Yeah. Okay, then I hope it's not too dark here. There's no power.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine, Emeka. Good to have you around, and also Bolu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good to have you around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Emeka, I don't know, you could introduce yourself. And
I've read that jokingly the two most used phrases. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes,
can everyone hear me?
Sure, we can.
Hello? Yeah. Okay. I was just saying that someone said the two most used phrases in 2020 was, can you hear me? And can you see my screen? So, yeah, thank you, Dele, for the opportunity. All of those accolades, all of those accolades you have given, I'll just keep that at the side. Thank you for the platform to share my experience and to help as well. And thank you, everyone, as well. I understand. My name is Chukwuemeka Madwago, but Emeka is fine. I currently do talent management for GZ Industries. I've been with GZ Industries for about 2 years now. But prior to joining GZ Industries, I've been with PZ Cousins, UAC, and EcoBank. Yeah, I've done mostly HR for the most of my career, spanning FMCG and banking. I'm still learning. I'm still growing, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to also learn from like-minded people. Yeah. Just before we take it further, then I understand it is a mock session, but yes. I also need to understand if you have parameters you have laid out that you use for the interview. So for many organizations, they have parameters they've laid out. Usually it's similar across organizations, but there are differences or points of differences. So just to be sure, or want to know if you have something laid out, or you just look across board generically to see if people are good fits.
Okay, so right now, So right now, say generically, but however, I'm sharing some KPIs to you via WhatsApp so that then I can give you a brief introduction into the business for which that would help also via WhatsApp, right? So I'm sending it to you. Okay, so I'll just generally just give a brief introduction of the business for which he's being recruited for, and that will form a basis for which this interview is taking place. So now, the name of the company is RBC. RBC is a financial institution with regional banking license, has been in operation for 7 years, and they have about 15 branches in the country. They are considering expansion and seeking to get a national banking license within the next 3 years, right? The business is owned by Alhaji Mayowa Nuruddin, a major shareholder. The business needs a vast finance manager / financial controller with strong financial control experience and financial planning. The business has had issues with fraud in the past and poor financial reporting. They had sanctions from CBN for 2019 and 2020 relating to foreign exchange trading, right? So as much as possible, we need someone who's able to navigate through these basic problems that the business currently challenges and has a good understanding of how to resolve problems associated with this, right? Apart from general related problems or general related skill set required for someone who is playing a finance manager role / financial controller, right? So that's key. I don't know if that answers your question, Emeka.
Okay. It does largely, but just a few questions. Okay. Yeah. So what is the size of the employee for this organization? Do we have that information? Yeah. And what is the reporting structure like? So for this role, who does it report into?
Okay, so it reports directly to the CFO, right? It reports directly to the CFO.
And lastly, do you mind sharing the turnover? You know why I'm asking all of these things? It will put in perspective the kind of responsibility that falls on this role. So you want to see that the person has a people management responsibility if he has other people reporting into him, for example. If he's going to be head of some units for the whole organizations that have presence in a couple of states, that also will determine how much he can concurrently manage responsibilities. And then obviously, okay, who he reports to, how far is he from leadership, to also know or look out those leadership skills or qualities in him. Is he close to the CEO in terms of organizational structure? Is he, or how far is he from the CEO role? And what kind of people will he be interfacing with, both internally and...
Okay, so he will interface with regulators, right? Right. He would also interface to an extent with the board and top management in terms of directors of the company.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah, so
that
CFO,
Thank
CEO, COO, CIO will be reporting to that top management, and they're all directors of the business, right? Either executive directors or just senior management.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah,
does that bring
that's fine.
another perspective to it?
Yeah, it should. It does actually.
Okay, Jide, I don't know if you have anybody in the waiting room at the moment. Okay, so Emeka, most likely.
Oh no, nobody's in the waiting room. Everybody's here. Sorry.
Everybody's here. Okay, so
Yes.
Okay, so if everybody is here and we don't have anybody joining, so most likely start by 4:10. Emeka, I don't know if you mind starting, then I come in to join in with the technical bit. Right? Or I can ask the questions, don't worry, and you observe.
Yeah. Okay, and lastly, okay, this just came in mind here. Does the organization have a mission, vision, and values? And how strongly is this important to them? You know, for some people, they have these things on the wall, but they do not, it's not big for them in terms of how they run their day-to-day organization. So is it important that every employee that comes into organization is aligned to the organizational culture and value?
Okay, all right. So we'll take that for consideration for future mock interviews. Right now they don't have, but the major thing is that, but you're making me give him expo towards the interview already, is that currently they're having a regional banking license. So they intend getting a national banking license within the next 3 years. So key for them is getting the national banking license within the next 3 years. So you need to set up structures to ensure that they meet that objective, right? So right now, not a mission and vision statement, but a key KPI, which will be key for the person we're interviewing to have skill sets to help them attain, right? And help in supporting the CFO in addressing that gap so that they achieve that goal within the next 3 years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's fine, Dilly. Thanks.
All right. So we are good. We are good to start now. Emeka, I don't know. Do you want to start or I start?
I asked for, I didn't get that.
Okay, I said, do you want me to start or do you want to start?
Okay, I was thinking you want to start, so.
Okay, don't worry, I'll start.
Okay.
Right. So we are good to go. I think we have quite a vast space already on ground. So, like I previously said, my name is Oladile Tubeni. Currently, I'm the CFO you'll be reporting to. With me is Emeka, head of HR, who will interview you for the role of financial controller / finance manager with RBC Limited. Right. Can we get to know you? Can you introduce yourself?
Good evening, Oladile Odugwemi and Emeka. My name is Bolu Akinyemi. I have about 6 years finance experience. I'm a chartered accountant. And at the moment, I work with an investment bank as a financial control specialist. I've worked with them for about 2 years. And prior to this, I also worked with a microfinance bank, a consumer lending bank, one of the top ones in Nigeria. So I'd say I have roughly 4 or 5 years of experience in financial services. That's just a brief of my experience and my qualification.
Okay. So can you tell me the skill sets you think is important for the role of financial controller that would help the business in achieving its goals?
Yes, so firstly, I believe being technically sound is very important. And also your soft skill, your ability to manage your team members is also very essential. So in my current role, I handle the regulatory reporting because the company I work for is regulated by the SEC. And so I also imagine that being deadline oriented is very, very critical to being successful in this particular role. And like you've also highlighted to me in the briefing, that the organization had some issues with their regulator, CBN, and also they've had some fraud cases in the past. So very, very important that there are strong controls in place to help mitigate fraud and error. So those are some of the skills I believe are essential for this role, and I have had the opportunity to acquire over the years.
Okay. So one key thing, right, working in a financial institution, you will understand that working around tight deadline is very important, and there are huge sanctions for not meeting result deadlines. In your current role or in previous roles, how did you ensure that you meet tight deadlines? How did you manage it? And you ensure that the business was exposed to limited risk or sanctions from the regulatory authority and still deliver quality reports and outputs during the course of your work?
So I'm naturally deadline oriented, and that's partly because of the kind of jobs I've taken up in the past. Where I currently work is regulated as well. And apart from that, the majority shareholder is also is a listed entity. So they also have deadlines to report their financials to make them available for the general public. So some of the things I've done personally to ensure that these deadlines are met is that if, for example, you have a deadline to the central bank of say 15th of the month after your month end, you can set an internal deadline that is a few days before that. So you know you're basically working to conclude the reports maybe 5 days before the actual deadline given by the regulators. And also, you know, in some cases you have inputs from other departments. So it's very essential that everybody is fully aware of what is required of them per time. For instance, you can make life easy if you have inputs you expect from HR with respect to staff attrition, staff training. You can just give them a template ahead of time before or at the beginning of the year and tell them that this is exactly what I want. And you would agree timelines with them and say, okay, within 3 days after the end of the month, I expect to get this report from you. You can even set up SLAs, you know, internal level agreements with those departments that would then be reflected in everybody's appraisals, such that if for any reason, one of the inputs you're expecting from an external department that is outside of finance, they fail to meet up with those timelines you've agreed, it will be reflected in their appraisal of the department. So that way, everybody tends to sit up and ensure that they do their parts to achieve the organization's goal.
Okay, fair point. Okay, another question I'd like to ask you, how many people currently report to you and how do you manage them?
So where I currently work, it's a very small team. So I have about 2 people that report directly to me. But apart from that, there is the operations department, which is a 3-man team, and they have a dotted line reporting to me at the moment. So with respect to managing the team, well, depending on how long you've worked, you tend to build trust with your team members. And, you know, it's basically about when you trust their output, you tend to not have to spend so much time reviewing their work. But I mean, you know, their appraisals. So at every point in time, you have the opportunity of assessing how well those people fit into you achieving your goals. So I'll just say, let me take that again. Pardon me. So I have 2 people reporting to me directly, and I have about 3 people indirectly reporting to me. So you need to put in a lot of work to the recruitment phase of the members of the team. But I mean, if you get that wrong as well, there are some things you can live with and there are others you cannot live with. So if there are attributes you sense from your team members that you feel can be worked on, then you work on that and to just help improve productivity.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Okay, quick question, right? For a financial institution, what do you think are the financial and non-financial KPIs that you think are important that management will be interested in and would help them communicate performance clearly, quantitative and qualitative?
So number 1 would be liquidity. I mean, because as a financial institution, you're basically taking money from where it is in excess to the areas where it's not in excess. So basically, but you need to be sure that you can meet up with your medium, your short-term and your long-term liquidity needs, because it has a very, very significant impact on the reputation of the organization. In fact, it's also one of the things the regulators usually assess is your liquidity ratio. So that your shareholders will be interested in qualitative metrics like return on assets and return on equity, because they want to know how well you are using the resources they've made available to you. But for non-financial, for quantitative, you want to look at customer retention, customer satisfaction, because you're a service company, right? So it's very essential that the people you're providing a service to are happy with the service you're rendering to them, because that also has a way of impacting the organization's bottom line. If, for example, your customer service are not very prompt with responding to customer complaints, it has a way of impacting negatively on the goodwill of the organization.
So what do you understand by cost of fund?
Sorry?
What do you understand by cost of fund?
Yeah, so cost of fund is critical as well. So cost of fund is just basically how much does it cost you to raise your source of funding, and as much as possible, you want to keep that very low, because that's how you make money. Basically, if it costs you, say, 2 to 3% to raise funds, you want to be sure that you're investing in interest earning assets or other profitable ventures that would generate higher than your cost of fund. So your cost of fund is very, very critical as well.
So, okay, for a financial institution, what are the major streams of revenue that you use in generating revenue for the business?
There are different financial institutions, but for a bank like RBC, I imagine their top line, their biggest revenue earner would be interest income on loans, and that I expect that to be the biggest revenue generating line for them. And they would also have interest income on other investments like placements and treasury bills. And they would also generate a lot of money from fees, because, when other services like ATM services, you would expect to charge your customers. Even when you grant out loans, there are fees associated with some of those transactions, but the biggest of them would be interest income on loans and placements.
Okay. So let me go technical a little bit, right? How do you think the new standard around lease will affect a bank that has branches and intends to expand? How do you think lease will affect them based on the new standard?
Yeah, I believe you are talking about IFRS 16.
Okay.
So that would be very critical for a company like RBC, because they have 15 branches in the regions they currently operate in and looking to expand in the near future. I don't want to believe that all of those properties belong to them. So most of them will be rented properties. So they will be very, very interested in IFRS 16. I mean, given the number of branches they have, it might be one of the significant lines for them.
Okay. So let's go back to leadership again, right? If you have a difficult boss, right, how do you intend managing such a boss? Given that it's quite difficult, it's quite demanding, it would use the F word on you during the course of the work. How do you manage such a person?
Well, for starters, you want to understand the organization culture. You know, if the environment that RBC operates allows those kind of slants, maybe it has not set it with an intention to opt. So you have to put that into consideration. You have to be sensitive to that. But I'm happy that you're mentioning it ahead of time. I consider myself to be a Gen Z person. So, you know, sometimes when you're under pressure, you tend to lash out a bit once in a while, and that's not necessarily a big deal. But I mean, one has to be very careful to draw the line, right? And I don't want to believe. I believe people are naturally nice, and we only tend to see that other side of them when there's a lot of pressure, maybe from top management, and it's just cascades down to the other members of the team. So first of all, it will be critical to understand the organization and the way people relate with themselves within the organization. So if he uses the F word and it's used often, I'll just learn not to take offense to things like that. And when you say someone is difficult, I think bosses are only difficult when you don't entirely understand their expectation of you or you're not meeting their expectation. So it might be an opportunity for you to reflect inwards and see if there's something you're not doing right or something you can be doing a lot better than you.
Emeka, I don't know if you have any question at this point for him.
Okay, Bolu. Thank you for making our time to attend this interview. Yeah, I've gone through your CV and I've seen that you've had experience in both financial sector and FMCG. What would you say is the biggest difference working in both sectors? And have you been able to cope with moving from one sector to another?
For me, I think the biggest difference is I consider FMCG to be a bit more relaxed. Maybe because they are not so scrutinized by regulators as much as financial institutions. And also, you know, because financial institutions, they basically hold people's money that belongs to the general public, you know, so a lot of them are too big to fail. And so maybe that's why they are scrutinized more compared to, say, a manufacturing company. So that's the biggest difference for me. Sorry, can you take the second part of the question again?
Have been able to adapt, migrating from one of the sector to another?
Well, for me, it was not so much of a challenge because I made the switch quite early in my career. I think that was in the second or third year of my career. So I was still a bit fresh and I still had a lot to learn at the time. So it wasn't much of a challenge for me. And, you know, I knew when I was going into financial services, I was going there to learn. So I went there with a very, very positive attitude to just take it from scratch, basically. And I see that as a very, very good characteristic of a person. It shows my level of flexibility and my willingness to adapt to new environments and industries.
Okay. What do you understand by ESG? And how do you think it impacts on reporting for a financial sector industry?
ESG?
Yes, ESG.
I'm not sure I've heard of that term before.
Okay.
Mind explaining that to me?
Yeah. I didn't get that. You asked the question?
Yeah, do you mind maybe shedding more light? It may be something I know, but I'm just
Okay.
not aware
Yeah,
of
ESG is acronym for environment, social, and governance. It's been around for a while, but many organizations right now take that into cognizance when they do reporting. Shareholders are particularly interested in how organizations impact the environment, what their social intervention plans are, and what their corporate governance is all about. So you may want to say some things about, for example, your diversity ratio in your organization, employee remuneration, what social interventions do you have in terms of CSR impacting your organization, and what's how your activities impact on the environment generally. Regulators have started looking at that, and then also shareholders and stakeholders in the business.
Okay, thank you for that, Emeka.
Yeah. So I know of many organizations, or I know when they do reportings, they reach out to HR to ask what's the diversity ratio in terms of male, female employees. You also want to look at if you are employing people with disability or how inclusive your organizational work culture is. And they report this in their yearly reporting document, so that it shows that they take all of these things very seriously. So we can move on. Yeah. Do you want to describe a time where you've explained how you managed dealing with difficult boss, but do you want to describe a time where you had to deal with difficult direct reports? You're under pressure to meet a tight deadlines and you're not getting the cooperation in terms of feeding the reports you need to from your direct reports. How did you manage such a situation?
And by direct report, you mean people that report to me, right?
Yes.
Well, you need to understand why there's a delay in the first place. So if there's anything you can do personally to help the situation, you have to do it quickly, because at the end of the day, it affects your own output. But because if you don't understand the problem, it's very difficult to provide a solution to it. Or is it that the employee in question is just being lazy? If that's the case, it's a bit easier to deal with, right? So you need to start assessing whether the employee has some issues outside of work that is dealing with at that moment, or whatever it is. So I personally feel if you understand the problem, you can then provide a solution. So that's, but I mean, at the end of the day, you also need to align expectation with the people that expect certain reports from you, that as a result of this, that there might be some sort of delays. Well, that's after you've exhausted all possible options internally in respect of helping out and ensuring that everybody does their part.
Thank you, Bolu. Yeah, what would you say is your biggest motivation? What does success for you look like?
Success for me is constant learning, constant growth, and being a part of a project. And, you know, at the end of the day, seeing that it comes out well. So for me, RBC, the fact that they're looking to go national from their regional license within the next 3 years is something. If I could be a part of that that process and see that it's become successful at the end of the day, and also help sort out the challenges around regulatory reporting and the fraud cases in the organization. So that would be something I consider to be success personally.
Yeah, do you have any other questions for him, Dele? Yeah.
Okay, so what would the expectation in terms of pay be, and why would you want us to pay such an amount?
Okay, I think it's only fair for you to make me an offer based on my qualification and experience, and also based on the pay structure in the organization. And there's some background noise.
Okay, so, okay.
Yes. So, I mean, I believe you have a budget, and I would like to hear from your HR team before.
Okay, so we have an open door policy. We believe in negotiation, and we would like to negotiate with you. So you make first tell us what you think you're worth, and based on that, we can come to terms and see if you're what the value you're bringing in.
I usually try to avoid, coming up with a number first, because it puts me in a position where I might end up lowballing myself or even price myself out of the opportunity. And typically, there are also things I would like to consider outside of the numbers before I can then make a decision. I wouldn't want the salary to be the showstopper.
So for now,
mind sharing what you currently earn?
Okay, so
okay.
What do you currently earn?
Hypothetically speaking, something around 18 to 20 million naira every year would be nice to have.
Okay. So if, for example,
mind sharing how much you currently earn?
That, unfortunately, that's confidential. I signed a non-disclosure agreement with my organization.
Okay.
The level of experience with the, from the outside, from what I see, the challenges the organization is looking to sort out at the moment, I feel that would be a fair salary expectation.
Okay, can you want to say something?
No, if they were done, just want to ask him if he has any questions for us.
Oh, okay. So, do you have any questions for us, Bolu?
CFO, I would like to know how long you've been working with RBC and what has been the biggest challenge you faced in that time since you joined them.
Okay, so I've been in RBC for roughly about 2.5 years. Like you, I was not like I've always been in a financial institution. I started with PwC, got 1 or 2 years working experience after PwC, then I came into a financial institution. Right, it's been quite challenging. That change in environment was quite key. It was a lot of adaptation for me, right? Because trust me, the financial institution, like you rightly understand, is a different ballgame entirely from other institutions. There are peculiarities, regulatory strong, right? And in terms of control, the board, there's a hell of high expectation from the board, right? And given that the business has plans on expanding, it's no joke at all. There's a lot of pressure from senior management. And if you read historically from us, we did not start as a regional bank. Initially, we started at a very lower level, like a microfinance bank, and before we moved on to regional banking, right? It's given the number of years we've been in the sector, trust me, it's an achievement for us, right? I'm looking for someone that can work hand in hand with me and understand what it means to meet the deadlines, right? And if we consider you a good fit, why not? We look forward to joining us soon.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope to hear from you soon.
All right. Sure, you hear from us soon. Okay, so this comes to the end of the mock. Yeah, thank you for your time. Right, so this comes to the end of the mock interview. This doesn't end the whole webinar. The idea now is that we've heard Bolu. For those who were here from the very beginning, we've heard Bolu talk. We heard from Emeka. And I don't know if anybody could tell us what do you think Bolu did right, or what do you think Bolu did wrong, and what would be your feedback, right? So the ground is open for everybody. If you get so that we can hear from every person during the course of this. Wahid, Tomisin, Shegun, Olumide. Yeah?
Okay, maybe I should go first.
Okay.
My name is Abdul. Actually, at work now.
So your voice is not too clear. Your voice is not too clear. I don't know what the problem is.
Okay, I don't know. Am I clear now? Hello?
Yes, you're better now.
Okay, for me, I did not see anything that I didn't do well, maybe because of my level of experience. I just want to comment on what I learned.
Okay.
I didn't even have known before. I would have been doing this in some interviews. Is the area where he was asked about how much he currently receives.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know that companies do all this confidential thing about salaries. So it's a key thing for me that I'm taking away from the mock interview that just took place now. Thank you.
All right. So we'll take note of that and we'll respond to you appropriately. Or Emeka, do you have any response for that in terms of what general practice in terms of non-disclosure of salary?
Okay. For many organizations, they will ask, if not all of them, I'm trying not to say all of them, but they will ask for Nigerian organizations. If you think your current salary will make you be at a disadvantage negotiating, it's better you avoid giving an answer. But you have to do that diplomatically and politely. I like the way Bolu handled it. If they insist and you don't want to go through the route of confidentiality, you may want to give a range. So you're not giving an exact figure. And obviously, the current salary should be the lower range. So if I'm earning 2 naira, I'll say, is it fine if I give a range? You should ask. And usually they'll say it's okay. So you can say I earn between 2 naira and 7 naira. It means I'm on the 2 naira range because I'm looking to get up to 7 naira. So usually the thought is that you are giving an average when you give a range. Mm-hmm. So you may put them off by that. So it's okay to go the confidential route or go the range route. Mm-hmm. Usually that's what I advise so that you don't put yourself at a disadvantage when it comes to negotiation.
Oh, okay, thanks.
About the amount you are choosing to collect. So it's fine. I like the route you went. Concerning structure and where the role sits in the organization. But if they also insist, ask if you can give a range. But also back it with the fact that for you, it's about building career exposure, and you should bobo them and massage their ego so that they think you're not about the money. You're about building a career with them. Okay. Yes, for the salary structure.
Thanks, Emeka, for the feedback. Right.
Can I say something about that quickly?
Okay, Bolu, sure you can.
Yeah. So if my answering that question would depend on how badly I want to join the organization as well, right? If the organization I've been looking forward to, I would put all the information out there, because what if because of that say, oh, this guy is not ready to talk, and then they just decide to move on to the next preferred candidate. But if I know if it's an interview, I'm just going to, for the sake of going, I may not disclose what I currently earn.
Okay. Then I know that.
Okay, okay, feedback too. Okay,
go
ahead.
So one thing I noticed is that now, like this answering that question is very specific to different companies, right? And depends on the company you're actually dealing with. There's some places in which if you don't give them an answer, you're not going anywhere. Some of them won't go as much as they want to know the exact
some
amount.
Some organization will ask you for your pay slip.
Yeah, they will ask for your pay slip. So that's how bad it goes. So as much as possible, even when you're quoting an amount, what I like to do is explain why I think I'm worth more than what I'm currently calling in terms of what I intend to earn. So if someone trying to tell me that, oh, but you're earning 100,000, why are you not saying you want to earn 250? So I try to give them a response to justify why I think I am worth 250 and why I'll need a 250 at that point in time, right? So it's a very tricky place to play, right?
Yeah.
So negotiating salary is one of the toughest things, trust me. Mostly because most times a lot of people want to move. And imagine you are currently earning 100,000 and they're willing to pay you 170, but what you want is 250. Trust me, 70,000 is a lot from where you're coming from. So there's a lot of ability to manage, not being desperate, and also trying to get what you want, right? So you need to find a way to balance it.
So, could just add to what Dele said. Yes, it's a peculiar answer for different situations. You have to gauge the situation to know how to answer. However, for me, this is personal now. When organizations are really keen on knowing how much you want to earn,
sorry to interrupt. Thomason has his hand up. He wants to speak.
No, so Gino, don't worry. Thomason will talk, right? Thomason will talk. Let Emeka finish. Then we'll come to Thomason.
Okay, yeah, Thomason, I'll be brief about that. When organization insists on how much you currently earn, there's usually a sinister reason for that. They probably want to price you based on your current salary. HR professionals think it is not right to ask people for salary currently. You should have done an evaluation for the role you are recruiting for. You should know where the role sits in the organization and on your pay grade and put a budget to the role. If they insist, it sends a wrong message about the culture of the organization. But like you said, if it's an organization you really, really want to join, I think it's still best to give a range. So even when they're asking you for a pay slip, right? Your pay slip sits in the range you have given, but like I said, the lower range. So you are not found wanting when it comes to integrity or telling a lie. But then, like Dele said, also give a reason why. Sell yourself. That's the most important thing. Sell yourself. The other aspects I could comment on, but let's hear what Tomisi had to say, and then I'll give the feedback generally from the beginning till the end.
Okay, that's fine, Emeka. That will be perfect. So, Tomisi, I heard your hand is up.
Thank you so much for giving me an audience. I really want to thank Accounting Yard for putting up such platform where we can all learn one or two things. But I need to point out something.
Okay.
The link that was put up, because I got this information via LinkedIn. So the meeting ID and then the password that was on the page is actually misleading in the sense that as soon as I try to join, I've been waiting for this. About since around 4, I've been trying to join. It has been telling me that the host is on another meeting. So till about 4:30, then I had to check the comment section before I was able to join into the meeting. So I actually got to the meeting late. So please, I don't know if you can help us, people like me, myself, just make a summary or paraphrase through what we have missed out into the meeting when they were about the salary. And I believe that much has been said before then. Thank you.
All right, so 2 things, right? Quick response. Sorry about you waiting. Was not in bad intention. So one thing I can tell you is that the video will be uploaded on the YouTube channel. I don't know if you've joined the YouTube channel before, but you can follow us on YouTube, right? Accounting Yard. So the full video of this session, which is recorded, will be available on the YouTube channel. That's one. The second thing is that, good enough, Emeka will give a feedback on the course of this interview. So hopefully that will help address your question. Yeah, can I get a thumbs up, Tommy? Okay, any other question?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, any other question, please? Olumide, Bada,
Luke Dombiri has his hand up. Maybe he has a question.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
So Luke can ask a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Okay, Luke.
Can you hear me?
You have the floor.
Sure, we can hear you, Luke.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Sure, we can.
Thank you so much. Okay. I really enjoyed
we can hear you, Luke.
Okay. I did actually enjoy the interview.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I really thank Accounting Yard for this arrangement mock interview. I'm actually interested. That's why I just have to make sure I do not miss any bit of it. I don't know if we can still ask some questions. There is a question I would have loved to ask Mr. Abolu. Like, how does he manage how does he motivate his accounting team? That is his team. And again, what are the key metrics in his report that they can capture either that is the boss or the board of directors' attention easily, the key metrics he normally use. And the last one I will also comment is on the salary, just my own contribution. In salary negotiation, as you all have said, it's one of the kind of how should I say it, a little bit hard something to answer directly. But what I normally tell them at times, if I go for an interview, is also let them know that for me to give them a specific figure, at times it may not be too easy because it has all that things I consider. One, the benefits the organization have. Two, the incentive. You know, benefit is majorly like a regulatory requirement that they need to do for the staff. What do they really have? Do they really have all these things in place? And again, is there incentive like bonus for performance, like any other thing, whether cash or not cash? So these are the things I look at. At times I ask the HR those questions. Like the last one I attended, I asked the HR, so she took time to analyze their benefits and also their intense incentives. So that will put me better to know the minimum I can collect, or I give them a range. So the benefits and others, I don't think is bad asking them that these are some of the things that help you to arrive at a better figure before there is a better figure for them. So if they didn't give you, then you still have your way out because you don't really know their benefits and all that. So you can give a range at that time. So that's my contribution on that.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Lou.
Please,
Bolu,
yeah.
They have a question for you. Bolu, they have a question for you. Do you mind answering?
Oh, okay. How do I motivate my team? One of the ways you can motivate them is to have some sort of job rotation. So in a typical finance team, you might have someone that is in charge of bank reconciliation. You might have someone that is in charge of tax. You might have someone that is in charge of PPE register. So at maybe quarterly or at a given point in time, you can just switch things up a little bit. So it's because people, apart from the financial side of things and the cultural side of things, one of the things that make people demotivated is when their job becomes monotonous. So job rotation is one of the ways you can help achieve that. I hope I've answered your question.
So, but let me add to what you said, right? So I think another way to motivate teams basically is understand your people, right? Some people, you just need to find a way to strike a balance in terms of maybe best time they intend to work. Like personally, I love to work very early in the morning, right? It doesn't mean I cannot work late, but early hours are my best periods, right? So I try to understand the people, right? And if, for example, we as a team are working and we're working late, for me, I think one way to motivate the team, I don't mind buying dinner for the team, working extra hours out of my own pocket, right? That way, it's trying to put myself in their shoes, right? And don't forget that some people, if respect their weekends, if need be, and even though I'm going to call you, I need to apologize and try to put myself in your shoes and not just think that because you're reporting to me, I have your life in my hands. Do you get, right? If you have events, you invite me in, I try to attend, just to form a level of relationship, not just make it look too formal, right? Because you're able to interact informally, it also kind of helps in relating and getting work done, right? So that's my own thoughts, right? So another question they asked you, Bolu, was key KPIs that you should include in your report that you think your reporting manager will be interested in.
Well, for FSI, you brought my attention to COF. I don't know how that skipped me. Cost of funding. Well, that's industry specific, but because of the work we are doing, we are talking strictly for financial institutions. So cost of fund is critical. Return on assets, return on interest earning, or earnings yield, basically, which is how much are you making from your interest earning assets? Cost to income ratio. So there are quite a number of things that are critical to measure performance, really. Yeah. But like I said, it's industry specific. So you just need to understand where you work and what is critical to the decision makers and the owners of the business.
Yeah. So if I want to add to that also, right, like you said, it's industry specific. So I'll bring in some KPIs that are familiar with or are important to a business that is like the manufacturing sector. So your gross profits per product line, right? Usually they have various SKUs. So you have a Milo, for example, what's the gross margin? Sometimes we want to know the gross margin. In terms of volume of sales, right? We want to know how much volumes you are doing, right? It's a KPI for some businesses, right? Some business want to know what their EBITDA is, which is the earning before interest, depreciation, and amortization. Usually for business that are interested in valuation, EBITDA is the key metrics, right? Some businesses want to know their cash conversion cycle. That means how long does it take for them to convert from their receivable or their raw material into cash. For FMCG, that's key. Because if you're not careful, if your cash conversion cycle is long or number of days it turns to convert raw material into cash, it's quite long. It impacts the business, right? Because they need to borrow money to manage that liquidity gap, right? If it's too long beyond what they expect, right? And that KPI could be how their machines, utilization of the machines, right? If a machine has the capacity to produce, for example, 500 cans of Milo in a year, right? People want to know how much have you utilized in a particular year, or what is the rate of breakdown of a machine, right? Those are KPIs the institution will be interested in, right? And that business can be interested in what you call net debt, which is basically your borrowings less your cash, right? For purpose of valuation, that's the key KPI. Do you get me? Right? So at times, in terms of reporting, some people want to be able to compare actual against budget, actual against prior year, right? And you do like a variance analysis. Now, that variance analysis, if you have it in your report, helps to management understand how the business is performing, right? Are we doing better than last year? Are we doing better than budget? Are we doing less than budget, right? Your head count could also be important, right? In terms of how many employees do you have vis-a-vis, how many are top management, how many are involved in production, right? Because it could be a KPI for the HR, right? They want to know how many staff. Emeka mentioned about ESG, right? He said people are beginning to get interest in KPIs that are non-financial in terms of social responsibility, how responsible in terms of climate and all. It could be a KPI that the business will be interested in. Like Bolu rightly said, it's industry specific, right? So you need to understand the industry you're dealing with and know what KPIs they're interested in that industry. Right? I don't know if you're going to address your question, Luke. Bolu, you want to say something?
Yeah, so a lot of people go for interviews and they don't research that. It's a major turn-off for the hiring manager, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost criminal for you to go for an interview somewhere, and as a finance professional, as a finance business partner, you don't know how the critical things they will use to measure performance. So it's very, very important, actually.
All right.
So I have a question, Dele.
Yeah, okay. Judy, what do you want to say?
Yeah, my question is for Chukwuemeka.
Okay.
So it's two questions. One is with regarding the ESG. Now, how is that different from environmental reporting? Because, like you said, it has been a trend that has been on for some time, but not too long. And how is that different from environmental reporting that shareholders are beginning to pick an interest in? That's number one. Then number two is still regarding to recruitment and then salary. So sometimes nowadays, I'm sure we have experienced it that companies outsource their recruitment to recruitment agencies and they don't do the recruitment directly. So from my experience, I have noticed that some recruitment agencies and some companies don't give these agents adequate or complete information. So they can't give or properly inform the candidate